Hello. In this video, I'm going to answer some of your questions. But first, let me say that I hope you're all doing well in this miserable time. All this nonsense about trying to restrict people who haven't had a vaccine that has been shown to neither prevent or someone getting or spreading COVID, is absolutely atrocious. But the good news is, those of you that have plenty of serpent genes do have extra protection against getting a severe case of COVID. If you have O/Rh negative blood, you have the most protection. With O positive, you have some extra protection, and if you are Rhesus negative of any type, you have a little extra protection. The worst blood type to have with COVID are A, B and AB positive. Stay safe out there. And now, on to some of your questions. And if I don't answer your questions in this video, they might come up in the next one, because I have a few videos coming up shortly. First question. I have always been confused about viruses. They are not alive, so how did they evolve? Viruses are not made out of cells. They can't keep themselves in a stable state. They don't grow, and they can't make their own energy. Even though they definitely replicate and adapt to their environment, viruses are more like androids than real living organisms. Tracing the origins of viruses is difficult, because they don't leave fossils, and because of the tricks they use to make copies of themselves within the cells they've invaded. Some viruses even have the ability to stitch their own genes into those of the cells they infect, which means studying their ancestry requires untangling it from the history of their hosts and other organisms. What makes the process even more complicated is that viruses don't just infect humans. They infect basically any organism, from bacteria to horses, seaweed to people. We have been able to piece together some viral histories based on the fact that the genes of many viruses, such as those that cause herpes and mono, seem to share some properties with the cell's own genes. This could suggest that they started as big bits of cellular DNA and then became independent, or that these viruses came along very early in evolution and some of their DNA stuck around in cells' genomes. The fact that some viruses that infect humans share structural features with viruses that infect bacteria could mean that all of these viruses have a common origin, dating back several billion years. This highlights another program in tracing virus origins. Most modern viruses seem to be a patchwork of bits that come from different sources. A sort of mix and match approach to building an organism. The fact that viruses like the deadly Ebola and Marburg viruses, as well as distant related viruses that cause measles and rabies, are only found in a limited number of species, suggests that those viruses are relatively new. After all, those organisms came along somewhat recently in evolutionary time. Many of these new viruses likely originated in insects many millions of years ago, and at some point in evolution developed the ability to infect other species, probably as insects interacted with or fed from them. HIV, which is thought of to have first emerged in humans in the 1930s, is another kind of virus known as a retrovirus. These simple viruses are akin to elements found in normal cells that have the ability to copy and insert themselves throughout the genome. There are a number of viruses that have a similar way of copying themselves, a process that reverses the normal flow of information in cells, which is where the term retro comes from, and their central machinery for replication may be a bridge from the original life forms on this planet to what we know as life today. In fact, we carry among our genes fossilized retroviruses left over from the infection of distant ancestors, which can help us trace our evolution as a species. Then there are the viruses whose genomes are so large that scientists can't quite figure out which part of the cell they could have come from. Take, for instance, the largest ever virus so far discovered, the Mimi virus. Its genome is over 50 times larger than that of HIV and is larger than that of some bacteria. Some of the largest known viruses infect simple organisms such as amoebas and simple marine algae. This indicates that they may have an ancient origin, possibly as parasitic life forms that then adapted to the virus lifestyle. In fact, viruses may be responsible for significant episodes in evolutionary change, especially more complex types of organisms. However, despite all their common features and unique abilities to copy and spread their genomes, the origins of most viruses may remain forever obscure. Next question. Where does evil stem from? Are the roots in human ignorance and stupidity? Or is it genetic, from apes, etc.? What if I told you there is no such thing as evil? Well, there wasn't in the beginning. The idea of something being good or evil, or right or wrong, only came into Earthlings' consciousness when creatures who need others to survive evolved. Because at a very basic level, the only needs of all life is to stay alive and reproduce. If you don't need anyone else for that to happen, you have no concept of right or wrong. You are just surviving, doing what comes naturally, and all life on Earth used to be female, and so there was no need for this concept at all, because the females could reproduce by making clones of themselves. A creature who needs to kill another life form to survive from the nourishment it gains from eating it does not think to itself that killing that creature is wrong. They just know that is what they need to do to survive. Solitary male creatures that have a natural drive to pass on their genes also don't think that hunting down a female and forcing themselves on her is wrong, because in their mind they are doing it to ensure their DNA continues. So you could say that to live on Earth is evil. And for anyone doing the great work, they will know that the only way to move on is to not procreate. If your DNA is left here on Earth, in your children, you are trapped here too. So, as Gnostics have been saying all along, there is no hell but Earth, and to escape, you have to first realize this and stop the cycle. That does not mean anyone should kill themselves. We are here to learn and transcend. You cannot transcend unless you do the great work. When creatures on the Earth have to depend on being part of a pack or tribe to survive, they learnt that if they just took a female for themselves to spread their genes, the other males in the tribe would be very angry about this and either beat them to death or exclude them from the tribe, meaning they would die anyway. So creatures began to learn certain behaviours to ensure their survival. These behaviours became programmed into our subconscious. So we eventually took them on as morals and ultimately as good and evil actions that affect the others in the tribe. However, many say the root of evil is money. This is where that idea came from. Timothy 6:6-12 actually says, "Now godliness and contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we will carry nothing out. And having food and clothing, with these we shall be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But you, O man of God, flee these things and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, gentleness. Fight for the good, fight of faith, lay hold of eternal life, to which you were also called and have confessed the good confession in the presence of many witnesses. He doesn't say money is the root of all evil. Money can't be evil. It is just a thing. But the love of riches can become an addiction. See my 7 Deadly Sins video. It explains why greed is ultimately bad for you. Because it doesn't matter how much success and riches you gain, it will never fill the massive hole inside you until you complete the great work. Question 3. Are there entities in some other planes of existence that can influence humans in this world? There are astral entities or thought forms that are created by magicians or subconsciously by large groups of people. If you are unaware of how to protect yourself from astral entities that others create or even have them target you, then yes, these negative energies can affect you. If you are worried about this, you can use the OIO sigil for protection. It is imbued with very strong magic to protect the members of the Order, but as knights, our Order and magic also protects anyone who is feeling vulnerable. Question 4. What might be on the horizon for the next 10 years after, regarding the GSM and magnetic reversal? If Mother Earth has anything planned to break down industrial civilization soon, or anything like that. The weather is naturally going to get more extreme as the Gulf Stream fails, but this has nothing to do with the cattle farting. That is a myth. The Earth's weather system goes through changes naturally over time. Mother Nature has ways of cleaning up the place and shaking things up when things are getting bad. But worrying about it is not going to help it or change what happens. So please just make the most of every day and enjoy the things you can enjoy. Never take anything or anyone for granted. Cherish loved ones and have gratitude for your comforts. Is there anything happening at the end of this year to be aware of? Will there be a war with Russia in the future? I have a feeling something big will happen around the winter solstice that I mentioned in another video. It is an 11 day. 11 is important in so many ways. It's the magic number. It holds the key to the universe. But our dates are man-made. We should remember that and not get so caught up in all the drama surrounding certain dates. If something terrible does happen at the winter solstice, it might seem terrible at the time, but you can be sure that the effects of it will be positive in the long run. I really don't think anyone will be going to war with Russia. Nuclear wars are not good for anyone. Only the most insane person would want that. I realise our governments are run by fools, but they can't be that stupid. One thing though that is happening is that Facebook is changing everything to the new name of Meta. And Meta in Hebrew means dead female. As corporations take over everything and buy out smaller companies, and Facebook and other sites censor women who are trying to stand up for their rights, when they are gradually being eroded more and more as the new woke world, where men can say they are women and gender is removed completely. This is a warning to us all. The Eagles do want to remove what it is to be a woman forever, and as the new eon is about androgyny, they are trying to ensure that it is the male side that survives and the female side doesn't. Their dream is to do away with women completely. It always has been. The ideal long-term goal of all Freemasonic Eagle brotherhoods being that they want to create men who are capable of giving birth. Then they can do away with women altogether, and they will have perfected the ideal man without the nasty female side they hate so much. See this quote from the Misogynists' American Chemical Society. The Carlinian revival of classic learning revived also the homosocial subculture of the ancient philosophers. That subculture was legitimated in Orthodox Christianity theology as an earthly approximation of the world to come after the resurrection. This was most clearly articulated by Freemasonry's Cardolinian scholar Johannes Scotus Erigena, at the time court philosopher to Charlemagne's grandson Charles the Bold. At the resurrection, Erigena wrote, "Sex will be abolished and nature made one. There will only be man, as if he never sinned." As George Dewey explained the passage, in this life such a reunification was impossible. It only had to be waited and hoped for, and man must prepare for it in abstinence. Then, with Christ's return, the end of the world would do away with the dual sexuality, more precisely, with the female part of it. When the heavens opened in glory, femininity, that imperfection, that stain on the purity of creation, would be no more. And then the Eagle poem. There are many devils that walk this world, devils large and devils small, devils so meagre and devils so stout, devils with horns and devils without, sly devils that go with their tails upcurled, bold devils that carry them quite unfurled, meek devils and devils that brawl, serious devils and laughing devils, imps for churches and imps for revels, devils uncouth and devils polite, devils black and devils white, devils foolish and devils wise, but a laughing woman with two bright eyes is the worst devil of all. I don't know how much information you can share publicly on this, but lately I've wondered about the symbol key. It made sense in your book, but is it normal for you to think you don't know what it is at first, and then question it and be unsure that it could really be it? Is it possible to cut yourself off from your higher self without realizing it? If you are being influenced from others outside yourself, it is very possible indeed to cut yourself off from your higher self. The Eagles know this, and that is why they pay people to constantly put out misleading, fear-inducing nonsense to distract you. As soon as you are living in fear, you are cutting yourself off from your inner divine light. Once you have your key, meditate on it. Ask your higher self for more proof. It will come. Trust yourself. And now to finish, I just want to say, I get asked a lot of questions about the future and predicting things, so I think it is important for me to explain something. The long-term future is easy to predict because everything moves in cycles, and this eon is coming to an end, and the eon of Veritas is approaching. And before any eon ends, there is chaos. So I could sit here and say to you that things are going to get very bad before they get better, but I really don't want people to worry about things they have no control over. There's just no point. The best thing we can do while here is have gratitude for the good things that we experience, and learn from the bad things, and try our best to make things better, or at least not any worse, for those who come after us. Yes, things are going to get rough, but there has never been a time in history where everything's been smooth sailing and good, with no bad things. It is never always everything being easy or always everything being hard. You might be thinking, well, she's saying this but offers tarot readings. I do so because I've been asked to. Many misunderstand tarot and misuse it. It isn't about predicting the future for other people or even yourself. It is merely one of the ways to connect to your higher self and find out where you are on your spiritual journey. And it is nothing to do with if you might or might not meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger. When someone who has full connection to their higher self does a reading for someone else, they are asking their own higher self to connect to their higher self and get information about where someone currently is and the influences around them. The cards might help the person come to understand why certain things are happening right now, and if they continue on that path, what might happen in the future. But it is not set in stone, and the person can always make changes or learn from it. So don't look at tarot as something to predict your future. It is merely a tool for your own spiritual development, and never get a reading done by someone who claims it is, or doesn't have a full connection to their own higher self, because you can be sure that if they are not illuminated, they will not be able to make a connection to your higher self. That's all for this video, but there are a few more videos coming up soon, so make sure you're subscribed, then you can be notified about those. Please like if you like the video. I will see you all soon. Bye for now.